All right, what's up everybody? Danilo Caprick here to advise you guys yet again on a specific topic related to tech sales. And today what we're gonna get into is what are the sectors of technology that you should look into? And I wanna answer this question because if you just say you wanna work in tech, there's so many areas that you could dive into, right? You can go into cloud, you can go into the data space, you can go into security, you can go into customer experience, you can go into so many things, right? So many little subsectors of tech. But which one makes the most sense and which ones are going to guarantee you the highest pay? Which ones are going to guarantee you a good product to sell? And which ones are going to be in the market long term, right? You want to find a company where you can spend, at least in my opinion, 3 to 5 years at before you move on to your next thing, because that's how you really master a sector and, in my opinion, get the most out of a company. So without further ado, today we're going to go into 5 specific sectors of technology I highly recommend you look into, and we'll also talk about why you should look into those sectors. Okay? So without further ado, let's get into it. All right, so I told you guys I was going to get into 5 specific sectors within technology and break down why I think you should look at them. So the first one, I hope not too many people are surprised by this because it's arguably one of the, not even arguably, it's probably the biggest sector of technology spend today. The first area is cloud, right? So think about your AWS, your Azure, your Google, even Alibaba, but the cloud space is enormous, you guys. Right now, to this day, it is passing 1 trillion in annual market spend. So in terms of the actual size of the market, it is absolutely colossal. There's so much space, and that's why you can have these giant vendors like Microsoft, Google, and Amazon compete and still be extremely profitable and growing because there's just so much opportunity there. So market size was one of the factors that I wanted to point out in why cloud is a good bet. But the second thing is something called compound annual growth rate. Now, if you've ever read a Gartner report or some kind of market study, they'll often comment on the compound annual growth rate. And you want to look at that because you want to see year over year, how fast is the market growing? How much is the market growing by? And when you look at it and compare it to other markets, it gives you a nice reference point to be able to say, oh wow, you know what? I think this is going to keep going year after year. More people are going to buy this stuff, right? And if we look at cloud today, the compound annual growth rate is 18.5%. That's huge. That's nuts. If something is growing by almost 20% year over year, I don't know what else to tell you, but like, man, that's just phenomenal. So with cloud, that's the big elephant in the room, you know, in terms of market size, compound annual growth rate. There's arguably no better place to be, in my opinion. The third thing that I would look at within cloud is product market fit. So product market fit really means how badly is the product needed, right? To the extent that it solves the problem, how badly do people want to solve that problem, and are people willing to spend money on that problem, right? That's product market fit. And if we look at cloud, I mean, let's be real, guys, the numbers are there. Cloud adoption is normal now. It's kind of the standard. And people are continuing to buy it because they want to move faster. They want people to be able to work remotely. They want people to be able to access things without using a VPN or being on site in a traditional normal IT infrastructure. And the benefits that cloud is giving to folks is really, it's really hard to ignore. So for that reason, I think there's also a very strong product market fit for the cloud sector. Now, the final thing that I want to point out within the cloud space is the actual companies that are running the cloud space. I mean, these are some of the most exciting, life-changing companies in the world. I should even say world-changing companies. So when you think about AWS, Azure, Google, Alibaba, I mean, again, these companies are offering probably the highest salaries, right? Their stock price is incredible. The company's tenure and really the trajectory of the companies it's really no end in sight, right? So I think for all those reasons, I highly, highly recommend getting into cloud or looking into the cloud space. Now, it might be difficult if you have zero experience to get into cloud, but there are things you can do like getting certifications or taking courses that will definitely enhance the likelihood of you getting in that space. But also, you could just DM a couple people on LinkedIn and get that referral, baby. So anyways, it's not impossible, but definitely look at the cloud space. Definitely look at the cloud space. The next space I highly recommend looking at is the data analytics space. Now, If you guys have not heard already, the data analytics space is absolutely blowing up. And I started paying attention to this specific market back in 2019 when I was about to quit my first job that I'd been at for 5 years. And luckily at this job, I had access to market reports. And one of the reports that we had outlined the top 10 sectors of tech that CIOs, Chief Information Officers, were spending money on. And for the 5 years I'd been at that company, I always looked at that report. And for 5 years in a row, data was in the top 3. And so I knew at that point, I said, I should probably go for the data space. And I ended up landing there. But here's the reason why I think the data space is so good. If we go back to those things, the compound annual growth rate, market size, product market fit, and the companies, here's what we find. The data analytics space, guys, is growing at a compound annual growth rate of 30% year over year. Okay, that's absolutely nuts. That's bigger than the cloud space, faster than the cloud space, absolutely astronomical. The second thing is the actual size of the market. While it is much smaller than the cloud market today, this is something that is going to continue to grow at 30%. But right now, the data analytics space is valued at about $346 billion, which is, again, huge. It's so huge. The third thing is product market fit. So I really want to hammer this point for the data space. And what I want to say here is that data analytics, the way you guys should think about this is companies want to measure and record everything nowadays, okay? They want to be able to record and understand how much revenue did we have last year, how many customers did we have last year, how many employees did we have last year, how much did we improve on this certain metric, but they want to measure everything. It's nuts. And because of that need to measure everything and get better tracking, this is becoming a non-negotiable for companies. People left and right are trying to create data platforms and trying to get a hold of their data to make sense of it so that they can make decisions, okay? So really data is about decision making, and what company doesn't want to make better decisions? I'll wait. Anyways, that is another reason why, though, the data analytics space makes a lot of sense. It has tremendous product market fit, and I don't think this is going to go down anytime soon because, again, businesses want to make higher quality decisions and they want to make better decisions than their competitors, okay? I said that funny, but I'm going to say it again. They want to make better decisions than their competitors, all right? So, the final thing I'll say on the data space is, again, the companies that are in this space. You have companies like Databricks, which is my employer. You have companies like Snowflake, Calibra, the data governance folks. But I highly recommend looking at data analytics companies because, again, I just don't think it's going anywhere but up. So definitely take a look at the data space. All right, the third space that I highly recommend looking into is, wait for it, the security space, all right? Now, I hope you guys aren't too shocked by this because if we look at the numbers, they're not as impressive, but in terms of product market fit, security ain't going nowhere, baby. And throughout my years in tech, I've seen different executives come to me and say, hey, you know what, Danilo, the board is really asking us to prove how we are hardening our IT security. They're asking us to prove what is the plan for if we get breached. And I've actually spoken to executives who've unfortunately had a breach, and let me tell you what, it's not pretty. So investment in security will never go down. It's always going to be something that is a top priority for companies, and that's why you should always be thinking about how could I get into the security space, because it's a very safe bet in tech. If we look at the numbers, the compound annual growth rate for security is about 9.5%, which is still good, right? We're almost at 10% growth year over year, which is very healthy. And if we look at the overall market size, we're looking at about $478 billion, which again is bigger than the data space. So don't sleep on the security space. It's already got a lot of players in it, and there's a lot of money, as you can see, with $478 billion circulating around at this point. So those are what the numbers look like. I've already commented on the product market fit. And then the last thing is, you know, some of the companies out there. I think probably one of my favorites, company I looked at a couple years back, was Okta. And Okta is you know what, this video is not going to be about Okta. I'm not going to tell you guys about them. But the point is, research security companies, take a look at some security companies. Highly recommend you do so because, again, they're just not going anywhere. And they're going to continue to be desired and used in the market from now till I don't know when, to be honest. So that's the third space I recommend looking at. Now, We got two more. Stay with me. The last two spaces are very interesting, actually, I would say. The fourth one is AI. And I hope you guys aren't too blown away by this either, especially as we see all these new AI writing tools come out like ChatGPT and all that. If we look at the numbers, the AI space is growing at a compound annual growth rate of 20.1%. All right, so that's amazing, 20% year over year. Really no number to play with there. And in terms of the market size, we have already approached 1.3 billion, which is phenomenal. So basically that's showing us that there's going to be continued adoption. Seems like there's high growth, but there's also a lot of skeptivity, I guess would be the word. But people can be speculative about the AI space because it has yet to really prove its value, right? Again, if we look at some of these common AI writing tools like ChatGPT, you might say, oh my God, that's really cool. But then some people might say, yeah, but that's not really useful. And the writing is not really that good. And I could write something better, right? But if we look at companies that are doing predictive analytics and that kind of AI, I think there is really where you start to see strong demand from the enterprise levels. And that's what I want to talk about next is product market fit when it comes to AI. Now, a lot of people think AI is just a robot telling you what to do. Not exactly, guys. There's different, what would I say? I would say that AI, one component of AI is predictive analytics. And all that means is being able to tell the future. And that's why companies want AI. Companies want to invest in AI because they want to get predictive and stop being reactive to what happens to them. Just imagine if someone could have predicted the pandemic and responded accordingly before it happened. What kind of edge that would have given them? That's the promise of AI. The promise of AI is that, hey, we're going to help you predict the future so you can be less reactive and you can actually do things before your competitors and make high quality decisions because we're predicting the future. We're not being reactive, okay? So that's the market promise with AI, and that's also why I think there is going to be continuous strong product market fit because executives everywhere want to make better decisions and they want to do it before their competitors do. So that's the promise of AI. And in terms of some of the companies in that space, I highly recommend you guys take a look. But some of the ones that come to mind selfishly are Databricks. You have companies like DataRobot, you have companies like Dataiku, a lot of different AI tools and platforms out there, but strongly recommend you guys take a look at that space too. All right, you made it this far, congrats. We've got one more, and that final space that we want to talk about is revenue intelligence. So I don't know if you guys have heard of companies like Gong, that's probably my favorite in this space, or Clary, but revenue intelligence is, over the last 5 years, I would say, really an emerging space that's starting to really take off and make a lot of noise. And if we look at the numbers, the compound annual growth rate for revenue intelligence is about 12% year over year, which is 2% more than the security space. So again, we're talking about some pretty significant movement year over year here. And the market size, number two, is growing now to 4.8 billion. So while that is the smallest out of all these sectors we've looked at today, it is still pretty large. And again, it's growing at 12%. So we're going to continue to see that number go into the future. Now, with product market fit here, the main driver is that chief revenue officers, CFOs, people who are at the top of the organization looking at sales coming in, which is really important, by the way, they want to be able to forecast, and they want to be able to forecast accurately. And I'll tell you another reason why this is so important. Companies that want to go public, right, if they want to be on the stock market, they need to be able to kind of predict and give guidance on the results. And revenue intelligence tools are the way to do that. How does a CRO comfortably get in front of shareholders and say, yes, our guidance for next quarter is that we anticipate we're going to sell 12 million extra, whatever, right? Revenue intelligence is the answer there. And so I think we'll continue to see demand in this space because there's more pressure on leaders to be more accurate with predicting the future. And that also ties into a little bit of AI. But overall, that's why I think revenue intelligence is here to stay. And again, if we look at some of the companies, I recommend strongly looking at Gong and Clary. Some others that might try to say they're in that space, I guess would be like a SalesLoft. But again, do some research there, take a look at the revenue intelligence space. I think it's here to stay. All right, guys, so those are the 5 sectors that I highly recommend everyone that is interested in tech sales look at. And if you need me to recap them, they are cloud, data, security, AI, and revenue intelligence. And we want to go after these companies because why? They have a high compound annual growth rate. There is a strong product market fit, right? We have really cool companies that are doing these things and actually changing the world. And the other thing is the market size itself is very large. So all of those things combined really give us the best chance of staying at a place very long, being able to sell a lot while we're there, and being able to learn a valuable skill or set of knowledge and tools that will help us in our careers, right? If you learn about AI and you're 22 years old and you stay in that space for 10 years, you could be an expert in 10 years and do who knows what after that, right? If you're in security for 5 years, who knows what you can do with that experience afterwards, right? Same with the cloud space, the revenue intelligence space. But again, I highly recommend looking into these spaces if you are trying to get into tech. Also, if you've been in tech for a long time and you're looking to switch companies or switch sectors, highly recommend you take a look at these as well, because these are the things that are here to stay. So with that, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, please hit the subscribe button below. And with that, stay tuned for the next video. Appreciate you guys. Bye.